Hey there, and welcome back to What Our Parents Said. I am your host, Jack Woods, alongside Landen Wood. Unfortunately, last episode we had to cut it off because the file was too large, but we edited a little bit, we cut it out, and we're going to pick up right where we left off on the conversation at last. So, without further ado, here is episode 7, talking about sex.
Aren't we supposed to be talking about sex as well?
Yeah, you know, typically we try to keep it down to about 45 minutes, but I genuinely believe that people will listen to this for a lot longer than 45 minutes. So now I'm going to throw out sex. Let's talk about it because nobody else does. My dad told me point blank to my face after giving me the sex talk, if you get a girl pregnant, you better be ready to be kicked out of the house. because if you are adult enough to have sex with somebody, you are adult enough to have a child. That's crazy. That's what my father said. That's what my father said to me after the sex talk. And it's funny, the story of how my mom and dad decided I needed to have the sex talk. I was in fourth grade, and I guess I was in trouble or something, and I was in my room, and I came downstairs for some food, and on the TV screen, there's the show Glee, and there's a lesbian cheerleader scene, and they're making out in the bed, and my mom and dad looked at each other, and apparently they thought, well, it's about time you learned about sex.
He's seen too much.
He has seen the lesbians. He has seen the gays go at it. I guess we're going to have to give him the talk. That's what I'm coming from with sex. Obviously, I've grown from that. But what did your parents tell you about sex?
Olivia, go ahead.
Oh, man, I got a long one. Are you sure, Landon?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over Jack laughing.
Yeah,
what was that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so I never really had one talk. There were several talks, and it was all just based on.
It was a multiple part docu-series. That's terrible.
It was a series of TED Talks.
It really was straight up, but it was never like that formal. God, like the idea of somebody sitting down and being like, so men have penises and women have vaginas. That was never what happened.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't describe the scene enough. My dad takes me into my room. And typically when I'm alone in a room with one parent, shit's about to happen to me. So,
it's about to go down.
Like, I'm about to get pulled down and spanked. Like, that's typically what happens when I'm alone with a parent in a room with the door closed. And
wait, how old were you?
I was in fourth grade, so
There you go.
whenever that was, however old I was. And my dad's wearing the typical dad jeans, and he's got his white polo tucked into his belt, and, you know, he's got the stupid fucking dad haircut, and, you know, I'm just wearing a Star Wars tank top, not even really sure of what I just saw on the television screen, and he just sits me down on the bed, and for 45 minutes, he explains the scientific process of sex without explaining consent, without explaining how awesome it fucking feels. He didn't explain anything beyond the scientific explanation, and then ended the conversation with what's already been said. Yeah. That was what I got.
Well, and see, that was the thing. The first one that I had, I was like maybe 5 or 6. I was super into science. I was always reading books. In fact, shout out to Johnson Elementary. I still have that textbook that I stole from the library, all about rocks and geodes. I'm very sorry. I've given it to McKay at this point. I don't know what to tell you.
That bill has got to be like $40,000.
Oh, it's crazy. I'm never going to go back in there again. But, so the first time that I had it, I was 5 or 6, and I had like a science encyclopedia, something like that. And of course, one of the parts was all about biology, and one of the chapters in the biology subsection was how are babies made. And this had never even crossed my mind before. So I'm like, oh, this is brand new information. I better get to this because, you know, my little sponge self was trying to suck in as much information as I could. And I wouldn't really say that stopped, but whatever. So I flipped to the pages, and they've got these horrible diagrams. Like, they were from the profile, but they were just like really bad minimalistic drawings of the anatomy.
Okay.
So it was literally like it's so hard to explain, but the drawing for like the penis in the book was literally just like, it almost looked like a sad little elephant. And it confused me so bad, because like I've never seen this before. Like, what are they talking about? This is so crazy, and it doesn't even look like anything I've ever seen before. It's literally just a line, and that's it. Like, it's, whenever I tell you it was very minimalistic, it's very minimalistic. So I'm sitting there, and I don't know how long I had been sitting there confused over this drawing. But at one point, my dad walks in to try and tuck me in for bed. That's how long I had been sitting here confused. And I don't know why, but I immediately, like, closed the book and shoved it up underneath my bed.
Oh.
But of course, like, I'm not slick. I'm 5, you know? Dad obviously sees it, and he's like, so what are you looking at? And I was just, my science book, nothing. I'm ready to go to bed. And, you know, once he heard me say I'm ready to go to bed, and I wasn't reading a book or wasn't still in bed reading a book with a flashlight, he knew something was up. So
any young child that
down,
immediately wants to go to bed is super suspicious and should be investigated.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially me, being that, you know, there were many times I fell asleep right next to my bedroom door because I would push my book up to the bottom of the door so that the light from the hallway could seep in and I could read.
You just
so
were
me
so
not wanting to read and
excited.
wanting to go to bed immediately, double suspicious.
So you just were so excited to just learn about sex.
I was so excited to learn about anything, and then sex happened to be one of the things. However, so Dad comes in, he sits me down, and he pulls open the book. And somehow I hate myself for it, but whenever I closed the book, I closed it so hard that one of the pages actually folded in on itself and basically acted as a bookmark. So
nice.
At this point, there's no hiding it, right? So like he opens it up, and then that page like flips back open and like flips flat again. It's a little bit bent now, and what does he see but how are babies made?
Oh.
And oh man, it was honestly, compared to all of the sex talks that I've ever heard anybody else have, it was the most easiest 5-minute talk that I've ever had, and it was specifically just about the anatomy. It was, you know, females have vaginas and males have penises, and, you know, sometimes there's people that have some of both, and we call those people intersex. Sometimes females have penises, sometimes males have vaginas, you know. So I was, while I was also introduced to sex and specifically different anatomy, I was also introduced to trans people and intersex people at a very young age.
So how old did you say you were when you first got this talk?
5.
So,
maybe 6.
okay, so you were, so it was like 06, 07 because you were born in 2001, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
God.
Just go ahead and put my whole birthday out there if you're gonna.
No, well, we've already revealed my mother's social security number, so any and all privacy on this episode is gone, but you learned about transgender people at 7 years old? Or 5 or 6
5 or 6.
Or
Yeah.
6 years old? I said 2007.
Yeah.
That is insane.
But I mean that wasn't really the end of it either, because like a few years later, my mom had one with me, and this time it was unfortunately actually about how and this was a good few years later. It was maybe like 10 or 11, maybe 12. I don't really remember how old I was, but I remember that I asked her the question after a boy at school kept trying to get my attention all the time. And on a field trip, we went to the Parks and Rec Center, where he continued to follow me, like, all around the pool, even going so far as, like, whenever I would jump in the pool, he would jump in on top of me. And, you know, I asked my mom point blank, why is he doing this? And she unfortunately had to have the talk with me about, you know, well, sometimes, you know, just because you're a girl, men will want to touch you. Men will want to, you know, with or without your consent, they'll want to, I don't know how to say this in a good way for the podcast, but
no, just say it.
They'll want to take advantage of you. So that was another talk that I had, and it was very sad, but it connected the dots. So I'm not upset that I had that talk or anything like that, because honestly, it set me up for everything else. You know, it set me up to realize that was the world that I lived in. You know, and that sometimes there's always just going to be men who want to do that. And it's not because, you know, I'm me. It's just because I'm a girl, you know?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. I told you it was going to be a long one.
Okay.
But, yeah, and that was it. And then at some point, I bought myself a book about LGBTQ people. At this point, I had already knew that I was bi myself. And, you know, it was just kind of like oh my goodness, you know, there's a rainbow on this book, and it's in Barnes & Noble. This is crazy. This is cool. You know, this is in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm so excited. And it actually talked a lot about consent, and it talked about what gay relationships should be and how they look like whenever they're healthy. It also talked about how they look like when they're unhealthy, and actually kind of went into the culture of hookup culture a little bit. So that was also kind of a self-talk, I guess, that I had through a book, you know?
Wow.
But yeah, that's pretty much my experiences on it.
That's a very progressive sexual childhood. Like,
yeah, and
that's
I
probably the
absolutely
most progressive.
love it, and I would wish the same for everybody else.
That's probably the most progressive attitude towards sex I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what set me up to not end up like some of the other people at school that I knew who were having sex at a very early age, who were having sex unprotected, who were, you know, making, in my eyes, bad decisions for their health. And it all honestly stemmed from my mom and dad both being extremely open about that stuff. I mean, whenever I went on birth control for the first time I asked about it, I thought I'd be slick. Once again, I'm not. I asked my mom, hey, can I get on birth control? And she looked at me with this V
Wait,
look.
that's it. Wait a second. That's you trying to be slick, just asking point blank questions?
Yeah, once again, I'm not slick. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I can't lie.
Hey.
I can't do it.
All right. I got this. I'm going to ask my mom about birth control, but I'm going to do it in a sneaky way. You ready? Hey, Mom, can I do birth control?
Can I do birth control?
Can I do birth control? No, sweetheart, let's sit down and talk about this.
Hey, Mom, I want to snort birth control, please.
Yeah, your mom was very nice
no,
to crunch that birth control up into a nice little line for you with her credit card.
Yeah, absolutely. She even gave me her credit card and everything. It was fantastic.
And you were 10 years old at this time, or 11?
Oh, no. I was 15.
Okay,
And
okay.
The reason why I was wanting to get on birth control was because, honestly, a lot of the other people were getting on birth control, and I was wanting to try and explore some of the, you know, the sexual world that my friends had already explored. You know, I kind of felt like, oh, well, hell, I'm lagging behind. You know, I need to get in there. I need to, you know.
Or have something get in there.
I want to
have something get in there.
Real quick,
Go
I
ahead,
would like to say that a birth control that needs to be invented and shows sexual inequality between the two binary sexes is that when you think about birth control, you only think about birth control for women.
Mm-hmm.
And the only male birth control is a condom, which is... is not.
Sterilization.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But I'm talking about for below the age of 30.
Yeah.
And so if you're teaching a young man about, or a young adult growing up boy about what sex is, it's use a condom and don't get somebody pregnant. And for women, it's more of like, hey, here's all the stuff that you have to do that changes the actual hormonal structure of your body so that you can not be sterile enough to have a baby when a guy wants to have sex with you.
When a guy when a guy wants to have the most pleasurable sex possible.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the whole thing. It is all centered around a male orgasm, or at least male organ orgasm.
Yeah.
Because, really and truly, they did, or at least they were trying to make a male birth control.
It bothers the living... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that the male birth control, they found that the side effects were too much for the men to take it on a regular basis. The side effect list of the male birth control is about a third of the side effect list for female birth control.
Oh.
Yet it's expected of us, and it's, oh, well, she told me she was on the pill and now she's pregnant, so it's her fault.
Yeah, I will say that it bothers the living hell out of me that it's perfectly legal for me to get a vasectomy, and it's a pain in the ass just to get an abortion. So that's
and not only that, but like if we're doing apples to apples, I could not as easily go in and get a sterilization surgery as you could.
no
Point blank.
No, I'm
especially because of my age and the fact that I don't have kids. Because not a lot of doctors want to say. In fact, many doctors will refuse me based on the fact that I'm going to change my mind about having kids.
Wait, is that different for men though?
Kids, but if I
hold on, I have to interject. Is there, like, for men, how, like, is it purely anecdotal that if a man wants to get sterilization surgery at like 20, which is about our age range, then like would the doctor be like, hey, you haven't had kids yet, you probably shouldn't do this?
That's exactly what they'll say.
I would hope so. But
that's what they say.
I don't know. I'm not a male in his 20s who's tried to go get sterilization surgery.
Yeah, so I feel like that one, I don't think there's much inequality there. If somebody was like, hey, we're super young and we just want to get sterilization without much of a reason, then I'm pretty sure the medical reaction is going to be the same either way. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's what the reaction is. But outside of that, my main point was that there should be, like, the tying a knot, sterilization, the surgery. I wish there was a temporary version of that where your parents could be like, hey, we're signing the papers at 15 or 14 where we're going to temporarily have our son's balls cut so he cannot orgasm or he cannot ejaculate sperm, and then later on he can have that undone. Like,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you here. No. I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not obsessed with them. I do not idolize them. I do love my balls, and I do want to keep them.
Balls cut, it was definitely just for
Landon,
joking.
They're already working on that.
Buddy, you can't just say balls. You can't just say balls cut and just leave it there out in the open. I'm an English major. I'm gonna analyze the shit out of what you just said.
My point is that the same temporary sterilization process, I wish there was one for men. I've also heard rumors of like a German carpenter finding it's basically a switch that you can do through your skin that undoes, like, stops your sperm from getting into your semen. Things like that, which I think is a great step in the right direction. But just that, there are surgeries where you put a copper, I forget what's it called, but it's a tiny copper piece. Yes, thank you. That you... Would you like to explain it?
She is very she's very knowledgeable about this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I brought her on.
I mean, I go to my OBGYN religiously, so an IUD is basically, it honestly looks like a little copper T. And it's not very long. It's maybe about an inch, maybe an inch and a half. And what happens during an IUD placement is, first of all, we don't get any anesthesia for that. We're allowed to take 2 ibuprofen an hour before, and that's it. However, the process is they go through, obviously they'll like go through your vagina itself, and then they go through the cervix, and then they go into your uterus and plant it at the very top of it so that it stops the eggs from ever coming out in the first place. And while that's great, especially because it's viable for up to 5 years, there are some issues with it, like the fact that sometimes the muscle can actually grow around the IUD, and it can become a really big problem because then whenever it's time for the IUD to come out, you end up taking tissue with it. There's also just the fact that, you know, it hurts to, you know, have your cervix dilated so they can push a little piece of copper up into you, you know? I mean, the only other time that happens naturally is during childbirth. And, you know, women get epidurals for that. You know, if your cervix doesn't allow for enough room, they cut you open and pull your guts out, put them onto a tray next to you, or sometimes a coat rack, because they do tend to move. And then they pull the baby out of you. But for this little copper thing, nah, you know, you just pop a couple pills and then we'll get it right in there.
You know, whenever I upload these podcasts onto YouTube, it always asks me, is this made for kids? And obviously every time I say, no, it's not made for kids. But it asks me if there's going to be an age restriction on there. And I always say, no, there's not really a need for that. You know, we're just saying fuck. Right? There's nothing inherently wrong with the word fuck. This episode has gone NC-17 with that one.
Well, see, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
The part of the problem with, you know, getting birth control and everything, especially for females, is due to the fact that, you know, us talking about our anatomy is seen as so inherently sexual that it's hard to find good, accurate information that isn't put forth by people who are trying to sexualize that anatomy.
Fuck it. No restrictions. Let's do it. We're going to upload it the same way we've been uploading it. We're going to be social warriors.
I'm not saying that we should do that, but I am saying that it's a part of a long-standing process that makes it harder for women to learn about themselves. I mean, the fact that women don't actually pee out of their vagina. You'd think that people would know that. You think that would be common, you know, knowledge. But no, there's still a majority of women and females and female organ having people that take out tampons so that they can pee. You don't have to do that. You've got a urethra. It's okay. You got 3 holes down there. It's all right.
And on the note of 3 holes, Landen, what did your parents tell you about sex? Because that we never got back around to.
Yeah.
So, mine was very similar to yours in the sense that it was a very long talk with my father that did not go into consent, did not go into multiple genders, did not go into any of the things that I now lump into the sexual orientation and sexual intercourse umbrella. And it was kind of just like, hey, penis goes in vagina,
it's about all you need.
Crazy stuff happens, and then
crazy stuff happens.
A baby is created, and that was basically it. And at some point I was like, okay, maybe some friction is involved. I used to think that simply
you just stuck it in and then
just sticking it in would create it, so I was always worried that like somehow it'd get stuck in, and then that's of course in like 10-year-old terms it gets stuck in, and then you're like, oh crap, now I have a kid to deal with at 11. So that was my worries. But yeah, mine was actually after school sex education. So we had like a week in health class that the boys and the girls were split up, taking to the different classrooms and explained. Yeah. Which there was that. My health teacher did do a good job where we played the penis game, which is when somebody has to say it and whisper it, and everybody has to go around, and the person that every single time it's said has to be said slightly louder.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Penis. Okay, I win.
Wow. And so in middle school,
oh my God.
In middle school, it was very, very different. Like, it was, I didn't learn about consent. I didn't learn what actual consent was and what the entire process entailed until college.
Yeah, I had no idea. Until the latter half of my senior year of high school.
In the beginning of high school, though, I did watch the T video, which is one of the best videos of all time, and my mom was an active feminist, and she was one of the biggest role models. So, like, I was fine. I was very respectful and made sure that person was fine with doing what they were doing. Like, I had no issues with consent, but just the fact that I could have gone astray because I wasn't told about it at all was crazy. That's
a testament to your parents for installing good morals in you, even without the knowledge of consent.
Yes. And my dad was kind of just like, yeah, this is the most you need to know, and you'll figure out the rest from there. Like, it was kind of you'll experiment and you'll figure everything out.
Pretty much.
Which, I don't know, with for men, the expectation, for
men is to perform.
The expectation for men is that you're going to become obsessed with sex, so you'll probably masturbate before, like, a lot before you end up actually having sex.
Yeah.
So you'll know what that process is like, and then also porn is a thing, so you'll find out through there. So unfortunately, a lot of the sex education for the majority of our young generation now is through porn.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Which is one of the worst ways to learn, another thing, when my mom caught me watching porn, the only time, she said that, she explained this to me. She was like, listen, this is not real. Does not follow the rights of how you should treat women. This is not anything that you should base reality off of. And I got the same message from my dad. So in that sense, I was very well off because I didn't expect porn to be real, and I was told from a very young age that porn was not real.
Well, yeah, a little bit different for me. So the only time, and I do mean the only time, that my mother ever caught me watching porn. Not caught me watching porn. Caught me on the day where I forgot to delete the search history on the family computer. The one day.
Family computer.
Well, I didn't have my own laptop. But my mom got home from work, saw it, freaked out, of course, and my dad had to be the one to mediate her emotions and my impulses. And I remember this direct quote. My mom was laying on the bed with a cold, wet cloth on her head, and she had already taken she had already taken some Excedrin, and I couldn't see her eyes because she had put a pillow over her eyes. So it's like cloth pillow, and she said, "Jack, you need to promise me right now, swear on your grandfather's grave that you will never watch porn again."
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you promise?
Of course not. I was 9 years old. I was back at it like a week later. I mean, I felt bad that I made my mom, cry and mourn the loss of my purity, but nah, that porn was pretty cool for a little bit. At least for a little. It's just like, wow, they're just doing it. They're really just doing it right now. I didn't know what to do with it.
I remember just being shocked.
Yeah,
like, oh
without
God, people are doing it and like taking the camera and putting it right there.
Just right there.
Like, there's nothing. There's not even any. Hey, let's do a full body shot. Let's maybe get the person's face in it. No, it was just
no
straight
discretion.
Up.
No
here's
discretion.
a close up of what everybody really wants to see.
Well, and I saw it, and my mom saw it, and she made me swear to never see it again, and I saw it again, and now she's going to realize that for 11 years I've been watching porn pretty consistently. Sorry, Mom.
I'm sure she has an idea.
I don't think she does. I don't think she does. I think that she believes I am perfect, which I am, but I'm not perfect when it comes to porn watching, unfortunately.
It'd be like that sometimes, though.
Wow. I was hoping that pause would last longer than 30 seconds. Dadgummit.
Do you want to redo it?
No, I don't want to redo it at all.
You sure? We can create that silence for you if you want.
No, I'm just so... I'm not quite used to the fact that I'm saying things that floor people. I'm not quite used to that. I'm not quite used to seeing Landen's "what the fuck" expression, even after almost 5 weeks of living with each other. I'm just still not used to the "good God, she really said that to you?" And I'm like, yeah, she did.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's basically like, yeah, that's it. It's something I learned recently is that the majority of the issues that you're going to deal with the rest of your life comes from your childhood. Like, the childhood are the most traumatic times to your entire life. And that's just how it is for most people.
Okay.
Like, as a general time period, that is the most time, because a lot of the time you went through things that you literally could not talk about yet. Like, imagine you're 6 years old and, I don't know, you watched... Okay, I can't think of a good example, so I'm going to go with
You
one
watched
of mine.
the lesbian cheerleading episode of Glee.
No, I'm going to go with something more dark than that, unfortunately. Like, you go and, like, you're young, below the age of 10, and you watch somebody pass out drunk and, like, on the verge of ODing on pills, right? You're below the age of 10, and you see this, and you're like, shit, I love that person. I don't know what's wrong with them, but I can tell that there's something wrong that they did to themselves. Mm-hmm. And you try to wake them up, it doesn't work. And so as a person below the age of 10, you have to try to figure out what the hell to do. For one, you can't think through all of that. It's not all rational. You can't really speak, especially if that person's not there. And then later on, when you try to figure it out, you don't really remember. So you're just kind of stuck with this weird feeling in your body. And that literally, your traumas get stuck inside of your body. So all of that sort of things happens in your childhood. So... And nobody's perfect. Not a single parent is perfect. So childhoods are fucking crazy, and you can draw the crazy shit in your life back to it.
I absolutely agree. I mean, especially the part about trauma being trapped in your body. There's been times where, I'm not going to go into my trauma, but there have been times where I've been hanging out with friends, and all of a sudden they raise their arm up really quickly, or... they, did that, like, fake out thing where it's like, oh, I'm coming at you or something, or maybe, like, somebody faked like they were going to throw a basketball at my face, whatever. And I would flinch hard, like, back away, hands over head, flinch hard. And they would look at me like I was crazy, but it was just, I didn't even realize I was doing it until I saw them looking at me as if, I'd grown another head. So I definitely understand that, and especially because it's a really weird feeling to have whenever you realize that not other people went through that.
Yeah.
Because then it makes you feel like more of an outcast.
Yeah. I didn't have the same exact experience, but it's kind of like when you smell something and it immediately takes you back to a memory in your childhood. It's like that, but for a reaction. It's like your reflexes are like one of those things. And so, like, somebody may say something or compliment you in a certain way, and it, like, triggers something that used to happen, something that happened in your past, and it's like a deja vu feeling, but for an actual emotional and physical response. And that's the best way I can describe it, is it's like deja vu, for one of your senses, for a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's trauma.
Yeah,
Well,
and it especially sucks.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, On that note, it's been an hour and 15 minutes, and to say that this has been the best episode would be a vast understatement. I want to thank my beautiful, wonderful, fantastic fiance, Olivia Yonda, for coming on the podcast today. Olivia, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I had a great time.
I hope that we can find a topic to bring you back. Which,
I'd love that.
Given your vast knowledge of everything, that will not be a problem. Landon, Of course. Thank you again, my friend.
Oh, no problem, my guy.
But you know
Thanks,
what?
Olivia, for coming. It was nice to talk to you.
It was nice to talk to you too, Landon.
Now, we've started a new tradition here at the end of the show where we tell a joke.
Oh, no.
Okay? Here is the newest bit of material that I've got. On the back of Big K grape soda cans, there is a call back number where you can let them know your experience with their product. Okay? I'm talking Big K Kroger off-brand grape soda. Who the hell is calling that number complaining about their experience? Excuse me, sir, but I did not enjoy my Kroger off-brand grape soda very much at all. Like, I feel like being a customer service rep for Big K grape soda is the easiest job in the world.
Nah, man, that's rock bottom.
No, I really believe it because
rock bottom.
I really believe it because you just pick up the phone. Really? You didn't like your grape soda? It's Kroger. Go fuck yourself. Click.
I feel like that would be that's the number that you call when you like find a maggot in your drink.
Yeah.
And so
Like, what the fuck do you want me to do about that?
not sue them.
Over
not
what?
file a report with the FDA.
Maybe
File a
don't
report with the
buy off-brand grape soda if you want high-quality grape soda. If you want high-quality grape soda, go get the high-quality grape soda. If you don't want the high-quality grape soda, don't complain that you didn't get the high-quality grape soda. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Jack.
Some jokes hit, some don't. Folks, we will be back next week talking about something. Landon, I think you prefaced it very well. We've been too positive for the past 2 episodes, so we're going to rear it back to trauma. What do you think?
I'm down.
All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.